Hello again, Struck Club. Today I'm bringing you another Torchlight 3 early access build video, and this one is for the Sharpshooter plus Blood Drinker combo. I've decided to use Drain as one of the main skills, so that's why the name Drainshooter Strikes. Sharpshooter Blood Drinker build. A long name now with having to mention the relic in the build. But yeah, as you probably could guess from the name of the build, it's based on Drain and Targeted Strikes. Targeted Strikes is the major spammy damage. Drain is our AoE, which we can also kind of spam, especially if we stack enough energy cost reduction and energy recharge rate for the relic. I like it. I was a big fan of Drain when testing it on the Forged, so I decided to try and make a Drain build for a ranged class, and I think the Sharpshooter fits perfectly well with such a build. I've also decided to this time include a little bit more points into the survivability skill that can knock back on my melee build. I didn't like leaving barrier getting a knockback because I wanted to pull the enemies closer for vortex bombs and stuff like that. But on a range build, I think it's a very nice synergy to have knockback, AoE knockback from the living barrier. Combine that with a potion that knocks back, and you can keep the enemies away from you pretty decently. Then I decided to spend some more points into Dance of Death myself for the default setup. There's gonna be more setups in the skill segment later, which you can see as well on my website. So yeah, I decided to not go into Bloodseekers and rather spend my other relic allocated points into Dance of Death. So hopefully you enjoy it. I've included Shasta to taunt the enemies and make them take 50% more damage, and Goose to make the enemies take 30% more damage from the vulnerability of the skill, and even Revolt made its way into the build, although it wasn't really needed, but since I've got points into it, might as well use it. So let's show you the skills now. When it comes to the skills in this build, I've decided to focus a little bit on precision, then a little bit of adventure, and then spend the majority of my points into Blood Drinker. You can see 20 precision, 6 adventure, and 33 points spent in Blood Drinker at level 59. I'd like to say that I've got the +2 precision skills and +2 adventurer skills bonus by equipping a cavalier hat, a musketeer cavalier hat, musketeer robe, and one more item. This one more item, it could be anything. It could be the legs, it could be the boots, it could be the gauntlets, it could be the shoulders. Most likely you would probably want the shoulders or the boots, but it's entirely up to you which one you use. Those are not the best choice, but are the one I've got. They're better than this one here, I guess, as a general defense, and gives me crit chance and HP. I mean, it doesn't matter, I guess, but yeah, I would probably suggest go for the shoulders, because on legs and boots you can get flat damage or percent damage. You can see now I've got boots with percent damage. I've never seen boots with flat, so I don't know whether it really drops, but more about that in the gear segment. So back to the skills, you see, +2 precision, +2 adventure, just needs one more piece of the musketeer set, and I would suggest go for shoulder. Most likely the best course of action would be shoulder. Then this means this is level 4 but 6, and I take it only for the relic skills damage. This one I take for the relic energy charge rate, and this one is my main damage apart from the relic drain skill. This is the next big piece of damage I use, and it's great. And Revolt definitely gives me damage for precision skills. It's great for targeted strikes builds or any other build that uses a precision skill as the main source of damage. And it's also something that helps me revolt refill charges. I can revolt the cooldown of those two skills. I can refill the Ghost Visage charges. So here we're taking Sacrifice to Goose as 1/3 for the extra 20% vulnerability, making it a 30% auto vulnerability for 6 seconds. This one is just for the mobility, having that one extra charge 1/3, and this one is for the tier 2 bonus, so that taunted enemies take 50% more damage. I think it's a reasonable investment of 6 points into Adventurer and of 20 points into Precision. I don't think we need any more in either of those skill trees. That leaves us with 34 points into this skill tree. Needless to say, Drain, you wanna max it out. This build is all about Drain. You want at least 1 point in Dance of Death and Bloodseekers. You want 5 points into Bloody Chalice, and ideally you would also have 5 points Energizer. Bloody Chalice is such an overpowered and strong skill. Every relic has one of those. The fire and ice only go up to 25% damage, but the bleeding, poison and electric ones get 50% of the elemental type damage. Meaning if you have a weapon with that type of damage, you can see this one gives me 4996. So let's say 5000, and when I equip it, you can see it goes up to 7.5k almost, so 50% more. And if I add 7.2% more, that means I get 57.2% more physical damage. And you can get more flat physical damage on the leg armor. There's even ways of reworking the build by, let's say you're using hat, shoulders and boots of the musketeer, or hats, shoulders and gloves of the musketeer, and then you're using a blue chest with flat physical damage. That would be more of a min-maxer meta kind of situation, and you can swat the chest in the Legendarium to still get the +2 adventurer skills, but that's gonna be kind of yeah, only in case you really need to rework it, so keep that in mind. So, needless to say, Bloody Chalice, amazing as long as you're using the right element damage on your weapon. And you would see that 50% damage is a huge boost, so in many cases, even if your weapon is weaker than another one you found that doesn't give you this elemental damage, taking the 50% increase into account, you would see that it's definitely worth it to not use it unless the other weapon gives you 50% more damage than your current one, which is rarely gonna be the case, I guess. But yeah, worth it. The 5 points here, the 10 points here, 1 point here and 1 point here, and at least 1 point here. But I would suggest now, because we're ranged, it's worth getting the tier 1 bonus, and I like the duration to be a little bit more tanky sometimes, so I decided to test tier 2 bonus here. This is completely optional. You can either make it 1 point or 3 points in this skill and spend the points on this one or this one. This one I decided to test the Dance of Death duration increase, and I'm loving it. I'm loving the Dance of Death duration increase. If you don't want more points here, you can probably spend those points in this place. And if you're using a one-handed sword, you can get 25% more damage for skills like Drain, Dance of Death and Bloodseekers. So that needs a one-handed sword equipped to get 25% at level 5 damage to relic active skills. So yeah, it's not bad, it's okay, but keep it in mind that it needs to be a sword. Another thing that you have to consider is Rupture. Rupture only works if you're hitting a bleeding enemy, so if you're not doing bleeding, chance to bleed on your weapon. For example, this does it, but earlier before I was using another that wasn't doing it and I didn't feel the need. A Rupture is great to consider only if you have ways of getting bleeding. If you don't have bleeding on your weapon, you can get it from Bloodletter, but again that's a lot of points invested, and this only gives you 25% chance, whereas on a weapon you can get between 40 and 50%. So keep that in mind. You could do Bloodletter plus Rupture, but that's 5 points here and 5 points here, and it's just, I don't know. I will give you some setups to work with, to experiment with, but in general my build is just as a base, as a starting point. You can start respecing and improvising and let me know what works better for you compared to my own setup. Now I think it's the perfect time to start talking about the Legendarium and what would be a good fit for the build. I like the two-tone pool. I really like two-tone pool, and I really like arc-powered pens. I would not suggest going for arc-powered pens equipped and having 2 more pieces equipped of the arc-powered set, because blue items right now kind of superior to the majority of legendary items. I really like arc-powered shoulders as well, but skittering shoulders are not a bad choice if you want to be stacking the damage reduction from skittering shoulders with the living barrier damage reduction. This one I love it because it gives me movement speed when I use Dance of Death. And Dance of Death, since it has a short duration of 6 seconds, which I've made up to 9 seconds with the tier 2 bonus, you might wanna be fast during that duration. And while you're charged up for those 15 seconds, 9 seconds of that time you would be doing Dance of Death damage, and you would be stacking that with the 100% damage to nearby enemies from the charged up, which is kind of like chain whitening if you've not seen the effect of the skill. And that movement speed really helps you cover some ground if there's enemies spread out and you want all of them to get hit. Things that you can consider would be the Goose pistol, the Leo Drake. The Leo Drake would be nice. And if you don't wanna be going for Shasta's Promise is probably not good for this build, but some people have been asking me whether it could be good for that build. Then Wingspan would have been great if I went for a scatter shot build, but see, I didn't have the wingspan, so I just decided to invest all my points into targeted strikes. So maybe some other time when I have it, I would test how it feels in this specific build if I respect the 8 points into targeted strikes to make it 1, and just put 8 points into scatter shot. I still have 1 point left. I will do that test sometimes to see how this AoE spread combines with this AoE around us. But yeah, I think the best setup would be what you're seeing: two-tone pool, arc-powered pens, and arc-powered shoulders or skittering shoulders, or maybe the Leo Drake. Now, quickly about the pet skills, you can see I forgot to use, so all the footage you saw me using was without me using the proper pet skills. So I was robbing myself of 15 crit chance and the healing possibilities and other things such as maybe defensive posture or the immobilize or the stun. Here I like using deadlier strikes, but if you want something like movement speed or defense or block, use it, but keep in mind 15 crit chance is a lot. And you cannot stack the same aura twice, so if you're playing with a friend or with some random people, just make sure that you're using different auras. Healing Friendship is a must-have in my opinion. Whereas for the other 2 skills, I like using Battle Cry and either Screeching Stun or Immobilizing Strike, or on summoner builds Necro Pupper, or Defensive Posture if I need defense. I think that's it for the skills. Next I will show you more information about the gear and the preferred gear rows. So here we are at the segment where I talk about gear and gear rows. If you've heard me in the skill segment, I mentioned you need the musketeer robe and hat and 1 more musketeer piece, and I strongly suggest for that 1 more musketeer piece to probably be the shoulders, because you can get good flat damage from legs, and you can get at least % damage, not sure about flat damage, from the boots. And if you wanna go 1 up and meta this shit, you can go for using a blue rope with flat damage, physical in this case for this build, and then equip it in the Legendarium and then put gauntlets, the musketeer gauntlets. So yeah, That's gonna be my suggestion as someone who wants to squeeze the most damage out of the build. Helmet, shoulder, gauntlets, musketeer, then Legendarium, the musketeer robe to get the levels, then blue chest piece, blue legs, and blue boots with flat and or % physical damage, and then you're gonna be so damage worthy. And if you have sockets, that's gonna be so much defense as well. It's gonna be great. For the weapon, you either want a very good two-handed, it doesn't matter whether it's a bow or a rifle or a great sword or a staff. If you want max damage, probably a two-handed with physical damage at the top, physical damage at the bottom 1 or 2 times. I mean, 2 times would be super hard to get, but it's doable, I've seen it. And then as many sockets as you can get. If you get 1-1, if you get 2-2. I've seen things dropping with 3 sockets, not sure if it was a bug or not, but I've got a triple socket at level 46 blue pistol on one of my forged heroes. So yeah, get as many sockets as you can, and then in those sockets try to get flat physical damage via enchanting. The same goes if you decide to go for a one-handed version with a shield, maybe for more survivability. It's gonna work. Or if you get one-handed weapon with a nice offhand that gives you some sort of nice bonus, like cooldown for a certain skill or damage for a certain skill or flat damage. Let me just show you something so you can see some examples. See, this one gives poison damage. This is 46, but just so you know that it can drop with damage. And it can drop with damage to a certain skill. Damage with drain, I think you should really go for damage with drain. Now let's talk about rolls. Let's talk about good rolls for you quickly. I think you should really prioritize damage with drain, damage with precision skills. Damage with adventurer skills is not that great because you're not going to be doing that much damage with your adventurer skills. We're not using Shasta for the damage right now, we're using her for the taunt to make them take more damage. We're not using Goose for the damage either, just to make them vulnerable. So I would avoid adventurer skills damage, but precision skills damage is great. Relic skills like drain damage is great, dance of death damage is great. I would avoid Bloodseeker's damage because it's not our main source of damage and it's only situational on bosses when I use it, unless you want to go further into it. Cooldown for living barrier is great, so you might want to consider that. Then as I said, flat physical damage, % physical damage. Chance to bleed is not a must have, but it's not bad. Then things like +1 to skill level, like this 1 skill level of Dance of Death or Living Barrier would allow you to have 1 more extra skill point to spend on other things. So that would mean if I equip this, I can remove 1 skill level from Dance of Death, or if I equip this, I can remove 1 point from Living Barrier. But if I do this, that means I would have to put another piece of musketeer set item, such as for example a shoulder, and then I would have to socket this in the Legendarium. So ideally you would have a musketeer head with 1 skill level to a specific skill if you want to squeeze 1 extra point to work with. Other stats that are amazing: -% relic energy costs or +% relic energy generation. I'm trying to find that to show you what it looks like. +% relic energy generation. I probably have it somewhere here. Let me see, maybe this one. No, it's hard to find it, but I'm pretty sure somewhere out there I've got it. But yeah, +% relic energy generation, look for that one. See this one, +% relic energy generation, great stat as well. Definitely stacks well with your passive and tier 2 bonus that you're using. Defense amazing, HP amazing. Gear work only goes up to 100%, and since some maps can give you 25 or 50% gear work, you don't need more than 50 or 70% gear work in those cases. So keep that in mind, make sure you're not overdoing it with the gear work. Crit chance and crit damage are some of the best stats in the game as well. And keep in mind crit damage goes only up to 300%, so don't overdo it. And crit chance is up to 100, but you get 50% crit chance for precision skills after using this. And that means your targeted strikes will benefit from that extra 50%. So if you have more than 50% crit chance, it's gonna be overkill for targeted strikes, but it won't be overkill for Drain or Bloodseekers or Dance of Death or any of the other non-precision skills that we use. So other stats worth talking about: block chance amazing, chance to evade amazing. Block chance and evasion right now work in the same way, but evasion will change. Right now each of those can go up to 40%, which when you max them out to 40 gives you a total of 36% chance to get hit, which is pretty nice. So yeah, you want defenses though. At high level you want those defenses, you want to be stacking them. Keep in mind I'm using level 46 items on the footage you're seeing, and I've just equipped this item after stopping my recording. I was using another one, so I wasn't even using this, it was a different one, I removed it. But yeah, on the pet I really love going for Dryad Neckband, and I like things like the Rapid Bartering token and the Phoenix token as well. But keep in mind that the pet also benefits from the 50% physical damage. So see, this one is supposed to be 3056, it goes to 4000 something, 4900, so definitely works on the pet as well. And that physical damage increase. Alright, I think we've covered, I hope I didn't miss anything. Avoid basic attack stuff. Anything that gives you basic attack stuff, avoid it. Both Phaeton Shock, it's not gonna work well on this build, you're not going for shock stuff. So yeah, probably in my text guide there might be some more information about this. But I say let's move on to showing you some more gameplay footage, and hopefully I didn't miss out an important part in here. And now here we are at the gameplay segment where I talk about the rotation, how I play the build, and show you some more gameplay to show you kind of what to expect from playing this. So just I'd like to mention that as you probably saw in the skill segment, I forgot to equip my pet with skills, so I'm not using the crit strike aura or the damage buff, so my pet has 0 skills, just the one that it came with. What I do like to do is I like to maybe start with Shasta, then do a Goose, then teleport with Ghost Visage to boost my targeted strikes, and then start using targeted strikes, and when the energy is full, use Drain. Sometimes I would do Shasta, Goose, Drain, then targeted strikes after Visage. But sometimes I would forget to do the proper rotation, and sometimes intentionally I would start using targeted strikes after Goose to get that AoE projectile stacking. Dance of Death I normally use when I think there's like a champion that I'd rather get killed quickly, or when I just want to get rid of a bunch of enemies quickly and move on. And I normally save Bloodseekers for bosses and tough champions that I think I need that extra 25% damage and healing on. Living Barrier I also use on champions and bosses, or whenever I need that extra healing, because it does heal for a great amount of HP over 3 seconds. So yeah, I think it's pretty fun to play the build, and it ended up being more fun than I expected. I underestimated how fun it would be to play a draining archer. I hope many of you like playing this build, and I hope my suggestions help you kind of pick what fits your playstyle. There's another option which I didn't make into a PNG, into a JPEG regarding suggestions. That would be the Scattershot build, but I did talk about it as a possibility in the skill segment, so eventually maybe when I do get the item for the Scattershot I would make a version of this with the Scattershot. If someone has it, if someone has the wingspan and wants to test it, feel free to test it and let me know what the results were. So this pretty much sums up the build. If you'd like to get notified when I upload more content, you can subscribe to my channel and hit that bell button to not miss the content update notifications. The content you would expect to see on my channel is builds and guides and info news videos, as well as other type of content for wooters of all sorts, RPGs, ARPGs, tactical RPGs, shooter wooters, and other things in between. Thanks for watching, keep it cool, Struck Up, and until next time.